Alright, you guys all know the spell. I gotta warm up for this one. You ready?
Expecto Patronum!
Harry does it better anyways. And by the way, this review is going to contain spoilers for Prisoner of Azkaban, so if you haven't seen it, go watch it, check it out, come back here, watch this video. So Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, this is the third movie in the Harry Potter series. This one's directed by Alfonso Cuarón. Did I say that right? I usually suck at Spanish names, but Alfonso Cuarón, he went on to do Children of Men and Gravity. And this movie marked an interesting turn for the Harry Potter series. This is where a lot of people noticed the series was starting to get a lot darker. But first off, with the plot of this movie, Harry, Ron, Hermione, they're all back for their third year at Hogwarts. And right out of the gate, you get more info on this wizarding world that is being built around us for all of these movies. Sirius Black is a dark wizard. He's just escaped from Azkaban prison, the wizarding prison. Think Alcatraz, but pretty much just exactly that. And no one really knows the reason why Black escaped, but we do know that he was a big Voldemort supporter back in the day, so maybe he's going after the kid that vanquished Voldemort. You know, it could be a possibility. So now Hogwarts is on lockdown. There's these creatures called Dementors that are haunting the grounds. They feed off of human emotion. And the Dementors are one of the things that makes this movie a lot darker, and also one of the reasons why I love this movie. This is without a doubt my favorite movie in the Harry Potter series. Starting off with one obvious departure from the last two movies is just the look of this movie is a lot different. Like I was saying earlier, it's darker, the movie's got a darker color palette. They also changed the layout of Hogwarts, and I like it. It's a lot more open. They got the clock tower. There's a really cool scene when Buckbeak is flying around. You get some cool shots of the new towers. They also changed the fat lady. She's a lot more expressive now. She pretends like she's this big opera singer. Dumbledore's different, obviously, because they had to replace Richard Harris with Michael Gambon. I'll touch on that a little bit now, and I'll talk about it more, especially in Goblet of Fire. I like Michael Gambon as Dumbledore. I feel like, especially in the later movies, Richard Harris would not have been able to pull off some of the stuff that Dumbledore needed to do, especially in like Order of the Phoenix and Half-Blood Prince, because Dumbledore gets a lot more physical in those movies. I feel like Richard Harris could have done Prisoner of Azkaban. Goblet of Fire, I could kind of see him doing. I don't know if he'd be able to pull off the ending when they're confronting Barty Crouch, but after that, yeah, they needed a slightly younger Dumbledore, so I'm glad they got Michael Gambon. And they made a couple other changes to the series along with the ground. Some of them good, some of them not so good. Some of the ones that aren't that good is they just changed some of the character designs for no reason. Some smaller characters that they changed, be like Tom the Barkeeper from The Leaky Cauldron. In the first movie, he looked like a hobbit. This one, he's like a hunchback. The Tom I picture from the books is just a lot more like the one that we saw in Philosopher's Stone, so I'm just really confused, like, why would you change it unless you're just going for a different visual style? Granted, Tom isn't seen again for the whole series, so it doesn't really matter. It was just kind of a weird change. Same with Professor Flitwick. The Flitwick that I know is not the one from the Prisoner of Azkaban onwards, it's the one from the first two movies. They add in that frog choir, which isn't in the books, and I actually really like that scene. And I know that the choir director was supposed to be a completely different character, but then when they went forward and new directors took over, they're just like, yeah, that's Flitwick now. So I would have liked a little more consistency with that character. And there's also just this random Slytherin that pals around with Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle every once in a while. I guess the actor that played Goyle, he had like a leg injury or something like that while they were filming, so he couldn't be there for some of the more like physical scenes, which really there's not a lot. There's a scene in Hogsmeade when they're having the snowball fight, but apart from that, he has a run away from Hermione at the end, I guess. And if I wanted to just nitpick the crap out of this movie, you could say, you know, the Patronus lesson in the book was in the History of Magic classroom. It's in Dumbledore's office in the movie, but those are changes that are just going to happen. What about the movie itself? How does the movie work? And the movie's really sweet. First of all, this movie is wonderfully shot. Like I was saying earlier, the color palette's a little bit different. The Quidditch scenes are really engaging. The flight with Buckbeak is incredible. Hagrid, who's now the Care of Magical Creatures professor, he introduces his students to a creature called the Hippogriff. It's this really noble cross between an eagle and a horse. And Harry, who wins the allegiance of this Hippogriff, he gets the ride on top of him, so the Hippogriff takes off and they're just flying all around Hogwarts. It's one of the coolest scenes, not just in this movie, but of the entire series. You know, the John Williams music is playing behind it. And while I'm on the topic, the score by John Williams is so good. This is the last one that he composed. I honestly think this might be the strongest score in the whole series. I mean, there's the Philosopher's Stone score, and, you know, that's got the Hedwig theme and some other awesome themes. The Quidditch theme's in there, Voldemort's theme's in there. But there's just something about this score. It captures the magic of Hogwarts, the whimsy of the characters, the adventure. It's almost got a slight medieval feel to it. And there's a couple new characters introduced into this movie. You got Remus Lupin, he's played by David Thewlis, and Lupin's probably my favorite professor ever at Hogwarts. What's awesome about him is that he's able to connect to Harry on a level that no other adult in Harry's life prior has been able to do. Because he was friends with Harry's parents, so Harry can ask him, like, what was my dad like? What was my mom like? And so Lupin just opens this whole other window into the past that Harry is able to view his parents through. And he's the first Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher we've seen that seems capable of the job. I mean, we didn't really see anything of Quirrell teaching, and Lockhart just talked about himself the whole time. But with Lupin, he teaches them about the Bogart in the closet, and they have to turn the Bogart into something funny, even though it's something that they fear initially. And also these Dementors, they just feed on tortured human emotions. And Harry has so much of that because he's had such a traumatic past and he's had these experiences with Voldemort killing his parents. And so Lupin tells him, hey, I can teach you a spell that'll get rid of those Dementors. And that's when he learns about the Patronus Charm, and Lupin teaches him that Patronus Charm. It's about finding your happiest memory and using that happiness to deflect the Dementors. The theme overall of Prisoner of Azkaban is that the world is getting a lot darker, but your goal is to find the light in those dark circumstances, and I think the Patronus Charm illustrates that perfectly. We also got Emma Thompson as Professor Trelawney in this movie. I think she was pitch perfect casting. There's no one else I could picture playing Trelawney. I would probably call her like the Radagast the Brown of Harry Potter, although she's not as annoying as Radagast the Brown. But she's got that really quirky, trippy nature where you can just tell something's not right in her head. She thinks she's kind of this big deal because she teaches divination, she can see into the future, and you can tell all the students are just kind of like, alright, whatever you say, Professor Trelawney. She's kind of just a joke on the campus, although she does have that one scene near the end where she actually does predict the future, and that scene is haunting. It totally sets up for a really sweet finale. And the third act of this movie, they really set a lot of time aside for it. Basically what's happening is Sirius Black is getting closer to the school, Harry's getting a little more paranoid. He gets this map from Fred and George where he can see everybody in Hogwarts, and he sees someone who he thought was dead, who Sirius Black killed around the same time that Voldemort killed his parents. Buckbeak gets executed, and from here on out, this movie is like just non-stop awesome. This big black dog lunges at them, he grabs Scabbers, he drags Ron down to the Whomping Willow. Harry and Hermione chase him down, they go through this tunnel, they end up in the Shrieking Shack, and the dog transforms into Sirius Black. And at this point, Harry has just all this pent-up rage against Sirius because like, hey, you sold my parents out to Voldemort. You were their friend. You were the reason that I didn't have any parents growing up. And then Lupin shows up and he starts being all buddy-buddy with Sirius, and now you're just like, alright, someone explain something. It turns out Peter Pettigrew is the one that sold Harry's parents out. He was the one that Harry saw on the map, the one that he thought was dead because Sirius killed him. So Sirius actually went to Azkaban for unjust reasons, and he went to Hogwarts because Scabbers is actually Peter Pettigrew. He's an animagus. An animagus is a person in Harry Potter that can transform from a human down to an animal. And then Snape shows up, and Snape has this childhood grudge against Sirius and Lupin. So many characters get thrown into this mix. Harry knocks out Snape, Peter Pettigrew is revealed. They're gonna take him back to the castle. It seems like it's gonna be great, and then all hell breaks loose. Lupin turns into a werewolf. Pettigrew escapes. Sirius has to fight Lupin off. They go down to the Hogwarts lake. All these Dementors find Sirius. Harry runs down there. They're about to pass out, and then someone from the other side casts a Patronus. Who is it? We have no idea. And so it seems like we just had our climax, but Sirius is about to get his soul sucked out by the Dementors. And then the movie keeps going. Hermione pulls out her time turner. They go back to the future style 3 to 4 hours prior. And that scene when they're down at the lake, Harry and Sirius are over here, and then like future Harry and Hermione, they're over here. Harry thinks it's his dad that conjured the Patronus, but Hermione's trying to tell him, your dad's dead. So that doesn't make any sense. And Harry's like, no, but I saw him there. And there's that moment when the Dementors are sucking out Harry and Sirius's souls, and Hermione's just looking at them, and she's like, you guys are dying. And then future Harry over here, he gets this look of determination. He realizes that wasn't my dad. That was me. So he runs down to the lake and he yells,
Expecto Patronum!
It's probably the most quoted scene in all of Harry Potter. So they break Sirius out. Sirius escapes with Buckbeak, and that's our whole movie. So to put a bow on the whole thing, I love Prisoner of Azkaban because it expands the world a lot more. The characters are way more fleshed out. The effects still hold up, and this is the first time when you meet new characters in the series who you feel like you could meet again in future installments. Everyone's got their own opinions, but for me, this is the best movie in the series. So have you guys seen Prisoner of Azkaban? Let me know in the comments what you thought of it. If you haven't seen it, that'd be weird because I just spoiled the whole movie for you. I'm gonna have my review for Goblet of Fire up probably in the next 2 weeks, so look forward to that, and I'll catch you guys later.